I decided I was going to make a video and go through my picks. Who are this year's All Stars? My plan was to actually fill out a ballot. I missed the deadline and fill out a ballot. So these are all unofficial votes. They don't count towards anything. But despite that, I decided I wanted to go through and see who my All Stars were. If you are not used to the All Star format, fairly simple. Both conferences, the East and the West, both get 5 starters. 2 of those starters are backcourt players. 3 of those starters are front court players. The reserves are made up of the same 5 players again. So 2 guard bench players, 2 backcourt bench players, 3 front court bench players. But then we also get 2 wild cards per team. So 12 players in total. Those wild cards can come from any position, but at least 4 backcourt players, at least 6 front court players, and then we have 2 wild cards to play with. We're going to get into it with the starters. We'll start in the West. Fairly easy conversation to have. This is probably where I get a lot of hate. I don't know where Warriors fans' mentality is on this because we all think my guy is great still. Actually, we're going to pick him out, not because he's going to be a starter, but because he is a lock for the reserve spot. So we'll get him in for a West Reserve, and we'll start there with our man Stephen Curry. But he's not a starter this year because teams got to win some games for me to consider you, which means we're going with 2 players off the rip. Maybe the 2 best under 25 players in basketball. I don't know if they're both under 25 still, but maybe the 2 best young players in under 30 players at least in the NBA, besides our resident big men who will be competing for these MVPs. Let's get Shea in there as our starting guard. And of course, on the other end, because he is labeled as a guard, because he does play a lot of guard, he is 6'7". I feel like we could make LeBron a guard in the same way we make Luka a guard. Luka not a reserve, Luka my starting guard. So we've got our 2 starting guards for the West. Pretty straightforward. I don't know if there's really any argument here. Both playing, obviously, Oklahoma City, one of the best teams in basketball. Dallas has been solid. Kind of solid without Luka out there, but this isn't an MVP discussion, so we don't need to get into that. And great when Luka plays, of course. So Luka in the mix. Again, I think we all watched at least some of the Euro Champions or the FIBA World Cup this last year. These were the 2 best players there. Again, no Jokic, no N.B.H, who will both be at the Olympics next year. But again, 2 of the best young players in the league, 2 of the best international players in the league, 2 of the best guards in the league. Nothing negative to really say about either of these 2 guys this season. Luka still has his Luka stuff, but even that has felt kind of tamped down and feels like he's kind of locked in. So, West starting guard, backcourt set, front court. Where it gets a little hairy, I think. I don't know if there's a world where I can't put LeBron James on this team, but also didn't start Steph, so maybe, or LeBron's going to be on the team. I don't know if there's a world where LeBron's not a starter, especially because he's been so good. But let's start with the easy one. Nikola Jokic, Denver Nuggets. Center, Nikola Jokic, one of our front court players. Here's where we run into a dilemma. It should be fairly easy to make Anthony Davis or LeBron James give them one of these spots. It should be fairly simple. They haven't won a lot of games. They've been playing better lately. Playing on a good little stretch there, man. Phoenix on a good stretch of basketball. Phoenix on a prolonged stretch of good basketball. But I don't think I can have both of them in. And maybe I have Durant and LeBron. But before we get to any of that, let's make the easy decision. Kawhi Leonard. He's back, you guys, just for positional old school. But he's back. Kawhi Leonard is back. We'll see how long it lasts. He signed his extension. We'll see if he continues to try to ride out this season and play all the games. Seems like the 65 game minimum for the awards has really convinced players to really go out there. Because those awards mean a lot for your legacy. So it's convinced a lot of players to go out there and maybe force it on days where they wouldn't necessarily in the last few years because they were saving themselves maybe for a long stretch or to extend their career, which I can't blame them for. But Kawhi's been playing. I think he's missed 4 games total. I want to say at least 3. I know he had 2 he missed in the middle of the year, and I think At some point in December, he might have missed another one after that. I think he missed one more at least after that. It might be 4, it might be 3, but he's played more than enough games to qualify for this spot, and he's been just straight up one of the best forwards in basketball, maybe the best forward in the West, especially if we're considering somebody like Anthony Davis, the center. And LeBron James is, again, great player, not quite on the same level, but I would take Kawhi, this season of Kawhi, over LeBron James' season and Kevin Durant's season. Not to say those two aren't having great years, but again, wins do matter. And the Clippers are, again, one of the best teams in the West. And again, Kawhi Leonard's been playing some of the best basketball he's played in a while, especially with Harden out there. His defense, he's been able to lock in on defense in a way that we maybe haven't seen, because Harden can take so much of the load as far as just the offense. Not to say Harden's taking a bunch of shots, but Harden's taking the load on offense, just managing and directing and running it. Kawhi's had more freedom to really lock in on defense. He's been great on that end, been great scoring it. Kawhi Leonard, easy lock. Okay, I need to find my 5th starter. This is going to be a tough conversation. I'm going to put them in the reserves for now. We're going to figure out who we're going to pick, because there are a lot of locks here. So again, AD is a lock for front court player to make it. I don't know if he's going to be a starter or a bench player yet. LeBron James is a lock to make it. Again, don't know if he's a starter or a bench player yet. And Kevin Durant is a lock to make it. Again, not quite sure if he will be a starter or bench player yet. I can do this, though. Again, I'm making some easy decisions. Anthony Edwards is definitely the other guard with Steph. We have 2 of our 3 front court players. Again, one of these guys is going to be a starter. So I need one more front court player for the West reserves. And I need to figure out which of these 3 guys is going to be a starter. This is what I'm torn between. There's three factors going on here. We'll start with AD, one of the best defenders in basketball at the rim. He's just damn near untouchable as far as his level of at the rim. I feel like I've seen enough games where he can fully take away the paint in a basketball game against certain teams, and there's not a lot of guys in the league that can do that, especially not a lot of guys in the West that can do that. And of the list of guys in the West that can do that, which I think essentially is Rudy Gobert on the right night and Draymond Green on the right night, like those guys aren't bringing what Anthony Davis brings on offense. There might be some other defender in the West that's a great rim protector. Oh, Vic also goes into that category, because he's been a pretty good rim protector for his first season in the league too. But again, none of that group is bringing it at the same level AD is on both ends. With Victor, that's kind of a not yet, but we're getting there eventually. But yeah, so I think that's the reasoning for Anthony Davis getting this spot. For LeBron James, this is more of a discussion about legacy. Off legacy alone, he can take this spot. We gave Michael Jordan a starting spot when he was 41 in his last season in the NBA, when somebody else probably deserved that spot. Although it was Vince Carter that he took the spot from, so I don't know if Vince Carter didn't deserve that spot, but somebody probably deserved that spot over Mike. But yeah, that's what we do. This is how the NBA works. And for that reason, make a good argument that LeBron James deserves that spot. And the last factor here is Kevin Durant, just because his team's been playing better than the Lakers. Again, Lakers have been turning it around recently, but the Suns started turning it around before the Lakers started turning it around, and it's been a pretty prolonged stretch now. I saw they had won 7 out of 10 at some point before the weekend. I think they won both the games they played over the weekend. So they were, again, playing really good basketball. I think Kevin Durant had 43 the other night. So I think he is going to snatch up my last starting spot, because his team has been playing better. His production, you probably can compare him and LeBron's production and come up with similar impact. Obviously, they both impact the game in very different ways. Probably argue that Kevin Durant might have more of an impact because he's being asked to do more on defense night in, night out than LeBron is. And I think that's going to be enough for me to throw Kevin Durant in that spot, and I'll let Laker fans be mad. But I don't know, y'all don't think y'all know this team not winning games. Y'all would say they're playing better too, so maybe y'all don't even get mad at me. Which means we have our starters, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, along with Luka Doncic, and then our front court, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, and the MVP candidates, Nikola Jokic. So now the big question. Thunder and the Wolves, 2 of the best teams in the West. I think they still may be the 2 best teams in the West by standings. They are two of the best teams in the West. Usually a team like that gets two All-Stars. And I ain't gonna lie, I kind of like, or I don't know about like, but I think Towns has done enough. I think Rudy Gobert. That's an interesting question, whether it's Towns or Rudy Gobert, or if they get three. Let's start there at least. Let's just put Towns and Gobert in our wild card spots and then go from there. Not sure where we're going. I'm not sure if we're getting three Timberwolves. I doubt it. But for now, I haven't chosen between Towns and Rudy. And I'm actually going to do similar. Actually, I don't think the Thunder have another option besides J-Dub. We're going J-Dub. Don't know if he's going to get the spot. He probably is going to get the spot because it's weird to not give a team a second one. But for now, let's have those dudes sit in the wild card. Those might be my last three spots, just straight up. Now that I look at it, I only have three spots left in the West. I have one more reserve spot, and that needs to be a front court player. So it will be Towns or Gobert, most likely. Oh, the West is tough, man, because I just thought of Sabonis. Sabonis and De'Aaron have not cracked this list at all yet, which is kind of wild. So let's get both of them up here. The West is difficult to decide, you guys. Don't think Paul has played enough. Let's check that, though. I'm 23 a game in 39 games. 23, 5, and 4. On 46 from the field, 41. You know, that's if I'm putting Rudy Gobert on the list, man, I feel like I got to put Paul George on the list just for now. They both might end up not on the list, but I think I got to go there. If I'm putting him on the list, James at least gets a consideration. I think it's going to work out. I think it's going to work out where James is probably not going to make it just because it's easier to do it that way. But again, man, you've seen with the West, man, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players on top of the 9 locks I already have selected. And I think there's more to come. So let's keep rocking real quick. See if there's any more. Jaren. What is Jaren putting up? Just curious. What's Jaren putting up? 21, 5, and 6. Decent shooting numbers. Is he blocking a ton of shots, maybe? I mean, he's not even on pace to beat any of his last 2 seasons in blocks. So I think that's probably going to be enough. So no Memphis, sorry, y'all. Bounce back next year. You guys are going to be really good next year. Not doubting y'all. Just, it's tough, man. Injuries are tough. Oh, I didn't think. It'd actually probably be Bane, right? Bane would be the person who would get the consideration now that I'm thinking about it. Let's check the main. Let's check Desi. Oh, shoot. Yeah, man. If Paul George is on this list, it's different when you're doing it for. But this is impressive, actually. 8.6 threes per game. What's my true shooting? It seems like a solid true shooting. He's getting to the line. Only getting to the line 4 times a game. That might hurt him a bit. 59.7, which again is one of the low, like relative to his career. Maybe isn't it peak, but like this is hard to do when you're taking a lot of shots. This number, like sometimes people like Steph and Bron and KD set like kind of, or even James not necessarily, but like Steph, Bron, KD, sometimes James even, they set kind of a ridiculous standard for efficiency. Jokic and N.B.H are the same way now. This is hard to do. Taking as many shots per game, carrying the load on offense that he's carrying, especially with the absence of Ja. That almost 60% true shooting is harder to do, to the point that I think Bane is going to at least sneak on the others receiving votes list. All right, let's get the main on there just so I'm not completely icing out the Grizzlies. Utah. I don't think I'm going to give anybody from Utah because it feels like it's the way the mishmash works, right? Like they started playing well when Colin Sexton starting, but that like just happened recently. I think Lowry Markkanen's missed a lot of time from what I can gather. 34 games is a lot of games, and he has been hooping. Darn. Gosh, he really 24-9 on damn near 50-40, 85. He probably gets a nod on the list too, especially because they've been hooping lately. I don't know if that's held up, but at least like the couple weeks leading in or coming into like last week of games, they had been hooping. So yeah, Laurie's actually going to give himself a nod as well. If Kyrie had played some more games, he could definitely get be in the receiving votes column, especially the way he's been playing lately. But Unfortunately, how many games did Kyrie? He missed a solid chunk of time. Just curious, how many games did Kyrie miss? 27 is not as little as you think. That's kind of the Jimmy number I was talking about, where it's not as little as you think. But again, in a very stacked West, not enough to crack into that guard space. Does Denver get another All-Star? I don't think they do. Jamal might get in just on his team won a championship last year, but he also missed a good amount of time. I'm also not going to be in pro. He got himself up to 20 a game. Good job, Jamal. 30 games, too. Not as low as I thought. Still don't really want to give him a spot here. He's playing some good basketball, man. Yeah, not giving him a spot, though. No offense. A lot of guards this year. Oh, the Pelicans. Such a weird team. Who even gets this spot? But they've had a lot of good moments when Zion wasn't out there. A lot of good moments when Brandon wasn't. Brandon seems like he hasn't missed too much time. So maybe it's just Brandon's the one that gets the nod then. Scoring's down. But again, I would say it's probably just a bit something. Zion's playing more, which is cool. Which again, shots are going to be down in that situation. But the efficiency has not dropped at all. Struggling from three, but the fact that actually, let me see how much and again, by struggling from three, I mean not as good as from three as he was the season before. 36% from three, perfectly solid on him. Only taking 4 threes a game. That's surprising. Yeah, don't worry about the percentage as much then, which means he probably hasn't dropped off too much in actual. Yeah, no, literally has barely dropped off at all in true shooting efficiency. Good for him. Brandon, you're getting yourself a nod. I'm assuming Zion doesn't really need a nod here, especially because he hasn't been as explosive at the rim as he usually is. The Rockets have I don't think the Rockets have an all-star. Feels weird because they're playing such good basketball, but they don't have an all-star. Too bad, Houston. Like where you guys are going, though. Keep it up. I think you guys are going to end up in a good space eventually. Keep being patient with Jalen Green and Jabari. I don't know if they're going to be superstars, but I think they're contributing players to winning basketball eventually. I think that's it for the West. Maybe. Vic gets in the receiving votes. Vic gets on the list just because he has been mesmerizing in a lot of ways and what he can do, and his numbers have really started to pick up since he's been playing center, so he at least gets on the list. I think that's it. Portland doesn't get anybody. Minnesota, nobody else. Golden State's hell no, nobody else. And yeah, that takes us through our West. Okay, we've got to try to parse through this Western Conference. It is not going to be easy. Maybe it'll be easier than I think. I usually tend to just rely on winning. We'll see if that's easy enough to make it work today. Let's try to put these in order of record real quick just to make my life a little easier. The Lakers are getting 2 and the Warriors are getting 1. I don't know if I can justify not giving the Jazz a spot. And it's weird logic, but again, as we saw earlier, Lowry, you're hooping. Markkanen, you're doing your thing. 2 players. I don't think I'm doing as great as PG's been and as good as Murray's been. And again, as great as James has been, I don't think James really it's easier to just leave him off for the sake of having an extra spot just because he came into the thing late. It's kind of trash his first 5 games in the West. And again, I don't know how you use that to vote All-Star, but technically didn't play. I guess he didn't even play in the East. Yeah, he just didn't play to start the season too much. Wasn't great in his first 5-game stint. Even though he's been great since then, I think that's going to be enough to keep James off the list. So actually, let's just drop that down there. Yeah, and I think we're going to go. Yeah, Denver and Clippers should have been more dominant. Let these kids come up here and be in your space, which again, you're probably going to just not going to stop you from getting to the championship or the Western Conference Finals. But yeah, I think receiving votes, but I think you shouldn't have let Denver and OKC be in the mix with you, man. If you wanted to get multiple All-Stars. So now the real question, I have 3 players here. I think only 2 of them can make it, and maybe only one of them, because it's going to be hard to justify J-Dub as much as, let's check actually what J-Dub's been doing. J-Dub has been hooping recently. Boy, this dude's a hooper. Holy crap. This nigga's shooting 45.8% from 3 And 54.7%. Yeah, man. Nah, I don't care if it's only 18, 19, damn near 19 a game. Nah, man. How's this dude only 22, man? And he's actually averaging more assists per game than like PG. I'm assuming that's more than Towns. Probably not more than Murray. But again, he plays with like 3 other players that are ball distributors and all in the starting lineup. Dude, 54% from the 3 and 46% from 54% from the field, I'm sorry, and 46% from 3 is ridiculous. That's just he's making 50. It's ridiculous. Again, doesn't get to the free throw line as much as I'd like, but again, he's only in the second year. He's only 22 years old. Give him time. He might get there. Just curious. Didn't even really knock down. Just this is absurd. This is absurd. This is absurd for a 22-year-old playing on such a good basketball team. It's fucking ridiculous that this is possible. Yep, fuck it. Giving him the spot. Don't give a fuck. Locked in. Don't know if he's getting a wild card or one of these front court spots yet. I'm assuming he's a front court player is what he'd be on the voting. Yep, power forward. Power forward and shooting guard. All right, let's double check. I'm going to assume they listed him as a forward, considering they start 2 other players that are definitely considered guards in Shea and Nasty Man. So, yeah, J-Dub, front court. I damn near want to give him this. Nah, I got to give it to Towns or Gobert, I think. Okay, so let's go there. J-Dub's getting a wild card spot. He's locked in. Am I going with Towns or Rudy? What's Towns' numbers looking after his little 62 points in a loss? 22.5 points per game, 8.8 rebounds, 3 assists. Very impressive. 44. He needs to shoot more threes, man. You need to be shooting 8 a game, Towns. I'm not gonna get on y'all. It's working. It's working really well. There's no reason you shouldn't be firing like 8 of these a game, bro. Just throw away some of these. Just throw away some of the 2s. You're fine at them, but just fire, man. You shoot too much. You shoot too well to only take 5 a game. I'm sorry. Get it up to 7 at least. Low key should probably get it to 8 or 9. That's not what we're here to talk about though. Towns has been hooping, getting to the free throw line a decent chunk, making them really close to a 50, 45, 90 guy. It's really good. But also, this team is the best defense in the league. And as much as that's a group effort, I think Rudy Gobert actually has defensive pieces around him now, which is wild because he just didn't in Utah for most of the time. So it's definitely not all on him. But, yeah, I'm going just because the hilarity of having to make Anthony Edwards play with Rudy Gobert even in the All-Star game would be hilarious. And Towns is getting bumped down to the receiving votes. 2 sides to the basketball. And then Towns has been good on. I mean, he's been part of one of the best defenses in basketball. Can't get on him for that part either. Let me just look at Rudy numbers to remind myself of how limited this dude is offensively, so I can convince myself. Oh yeah, and Towns' rebounds probably aren't even down. He's just letting Rudy grab them. Yeah, man, let's go for fun. Sorry, Rudy. Let's go for fun. Low-key want to put J-Dub in that spot over Towns, though. Interestingly enough. That feels like actual lineup. Okay, Towns is locked in with this spot, though, which means I have 1 spot left. I have 1 Western Conference spot left for De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, Domantas Sabonis. I'm sorry, I almost said Averdies. Brandon Ingram, Lauri Markkanen, Desmond Bane. You're not getting on. Good receiving votes, man. Having a great year. I'm glad we considered you. And Vic, same thing. Having a great year. Glad we're considering you. I'm glad I was able to mention you and talk about the numbers at least a little bit. I didn't look up Vic's numbers. Let's look up Vic's numbers because I haven't looked up everybody else's. Let's look up Vic's numbers just so we can be awed by his defensive prowess. 3.2 blocks a game as a rookie, leading the league in blocks as a rookie. Insane. Sorry, I don't mean to use that. Sorry. Wild thing to have happen. 20 a game, despite the fact that he hasn't even really found his offense yet. This dude's gonna be scary, man. And again, Can I find a game log? Since he's been playing center, it's kind of been, I mean, Embiid. I'm about to say Embiid made him have a rough night, man. He was in foul trouble and still managed to score 33 points on 19 shots, so maybe it wasn't that rough of a night. It seemed like he hit Embiid with a little bit of the Embiid, or at least somebody on the Philly roster with a bit of the Embiid. 12 free throws. Yeah, Vic's been hooping, man. If we could pick all stars at the end of the season, which obviously doesn't make any sense, but like for the second half of the season, I think Victor might be like a lock damn near if what he's been doing recently is any indication of where it's going. But again, just wanted to talk about Vic real quick. He's not getting in the mix, and that's fine. That's okay. I mean, I'm not going to give it to, maybe I will give it to Sabonis over De'Aaron because he has been hooping this year. It'd be weird to not have Sacramento in there. Let's double check standings one more time. They've been falling off. Okay, they're below Pelicans in the standings. How much closer are the Jazz to them, actually? The Jazz are 3 games back. That's a pretty significant gap. Okay, that's probably going to be enough to ding Laurie, even though, again, I have LeBron and AD on this list. That's really just rough sledding for my man Laurie, honestly. But that's how it goes. This Western Conference is tough, man. Welcome to Dame's world. Well, Dame got out now. Okay. We've got 2 more decisions to make. We got to get 2 more people off this list. Is Brandon Ingram playing well enough to knock off Sabonis or De'Aaron? I don't think so. Gosh, Sabonis numbers are impressive, man. You forget until you see him. He's shooting 30. I mean, he's not shooting a lot, but he's shooting 40 from 3, even on 1 attempt a game. Again, he's making half a 3 a game on 1.1 attempts. There's value there. Leading the league in rebounds. That's a boon. 3.3 turnovers against the 7.9 assists. I'm kind of fine with it. Let's compare this to De'Aaron. All right. De'Aaron. Gosh, both these dudes are putting up numbers, bro. 46.5 from the field, 40 from 3, 27 a game. Brandon's numbers don't really compare, so it's really the coin flip. I always go with De'Aaron. Having J-Dub in the front court over Sabonis feels like... Okay. Is Sacramento getting 2 guys? I mean, the Lakers got 2 guys, and Sacramento's guys are that important to their team, and they're winning much more games. I think I'm doing this. This is you guys got fucked by bad stats. I really thought J-Dub was making the list, man. Harden kind of got fucked by similar things. And I think I'm going to drag Sabonis up here, actually, and have him leapfrog Fox. Or leapfrog Carl. And we got a couple Kentucky guys on the back end. Look at that. Is Sabonis a Kentucky guy, too? No. He went to a WAC school, right? Like a WAC? I think he went to Zag. I think he was a Zag. Gonzaga. Our Western Conference All-Star team. For our starters in the backcourt, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Luka Doncic. In our front court, we have Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, and Nikola Jokic. For our West reserves, we have in the backcourt Stephen Curry and Anthony Edwards. In our front court, we have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Domantas Sabonis. And our last 2 wild cards is Karl-Anthony Towns, giving us the second Timberwolf, and De'Aaron Fox, giving us the second King, which I'm not going to feel too bad about. Second King over... Let me see what Booker's putting up real quick. Devin Booker. Very similar statistical output to De'Aaron Fox, actually. It's funny because this isn't going to lead to me putting Booker on the team. It's going to lead to me taking De'Aaron off it, though. I'm going to do it, you guys. Don't tell anybody. Sorry. Yep, we're doing it. J-Dub. J-Dub gets the spot. This team's playing better than both of those teams. And again, Booker has been hooping. And the West is tough, man. The West is tough. I ain't gonna gonna lie, Steph Curry's ass need to get on himself on a good basketball team, so this doesn't feel as weird to do. All right, here we go. Or the Warriors need to become a good basketball team, I should say. All right, we got to come up with some East reserves.